Hello out there guys, how are you doing? Welcome back as always to Rule of Two Review, and today we're going to discuss some Metroid Samus Returns and a little bit of this weird Amiibo controversy. So I am pretty excited to talk about this news story, but I do have to let you guys know before I get too far into this that I should apologize for my voice just in case it doesn't sound too great or if I crack a little bit in this video. I just got back from seeing the mighty Metallica last night. I did, of course, attend their concert last night in Seattle, and like, Metallica is my absolute favorite band. It was my 11th show, and they killed it last night, you guys. It was so crazy. I've been all over social media and Twitter and stuff, posting about it and sharing photos and just being really excited. And I screamed and sang my ass off, so I just am like really tired, and my voice feels like it's really strained, and I don't want to necessarily not sound great for you guys when discussing the normal gaming Nintendo stuff. But just in case I sound a little bit weary or haggard, it's because of my voice, because I was just singing that mighty Metallica stuff, and it was so rad. Anyway, let's get on to the good stuff and talk about some games. So, Metroid Samus Returns is less than 2 months away. Oh my goodness, I am freaking out, and I assume that a lot of you guys are as well. I think this game is going to be a huge hit, you guys, and it's going to be really great. It's going to be the beginning of, I think, a very strong resurgence for the Metroid franchise and for Samus as a character, and it's going to be a great thing to see for Nintendo and get the buzz building for whenever Metroid Prime 4 comes out. I discussed that several times since E3 and all these announcements, of course. And through that, we all know that one of the big things Nintendo is also doing is releasing 2 Metroid Samus Returns themed Amiibos, which you can see here. And man, do they look amazing. They look gorgeous. The more physical Samuses and Metroids I can have in my life to kind of poke and play with, the better, man. I'm really, really excited to have these things. And I think it's cool that they do have some, you know, standard Amiibo functionality for the game. That's one of the things that I think a lot of times we forget. It's like, yeah, Amiibo are great because they look cool, and they're really detailed, fun, and cheap representations of some of our favorite gaming characters, but also, oh yeah, they serve that other purpose of giving benefits and bonuses and unlocking features in games. But after the initial excitement and hype of these Amiibo wore off once they were first introduced, and as Nintendo has started to roll out some of the information of what these things are apparently able to do and unlock in Metroid Samus Returns, some people started to get a little bit up in arms, and for reasons that I can overall understand, about what's happening with these Metroid Samus Returns Amiibos, and if they're all of a sudden bringing back the, you know, the tried and true conversation of how much content is appropriate to lock behind a $13 Amiibo paywall, as opposed to how much content do you put behind an Amiibo to make it actually worth the value and make it functionality that's worth actually using. And people have been pretty much up in arms and very split over what's going on. Actually, I probably shouldn't say very split, because for the most part, people have been kind of unhappy. So the gist of what happened is one of the things that Nintendo apparently at first announced was a fusion mode for Samus Returns that's unlocked. I don't remember which Amiibo unlocks it, whether it's the Metroid or the Samus, but one of the Amiibos was going to unlock a fusion mode, which was being billed at first as a hard mode, a harder difficulty. And a lot of people got upset because, hey, this is the kind of thing that should probably be just in the game itself. This is a standard idea. And I mean, people were also upset with Breath of the Wild, for example, that the hard mode for that, Master Mode I think it was called, was locked behind the $20 DLC Season Pass, or $30? I haven't even bought it. $20 or $30 DLC Season Pass. And people were upset about that too, claiming the same thing, that, hey, a hard mode is something that should just be an option in the game, whether it's available from the get-go, or you unlock it after you beat the game, like a New Game Plus sort of thing. It's something that should just be there. No one should have to pay more for it. Now, I will say, even as a massive Dark Souls and Bloodborne fan, I don't really care for hard modes. I don't really care about how they're available to us. So this whole thing has never really hit me personally, and I've never felt like I needed to pick up the mantle and fight the fight and be like, yeah, make hard modes available this way as opposed to this way. They should be available for free. Like, I don't really care for me because I never mess with those. I just don't care. But I do understand the argument being lobbied, and when I step away from my own personal perspective and think of it objectively, yeah, I think that overall, at the end of the day, it's pretty true. You really shouldn't lock something like a hard mode behind a paywall, no matter how small that paywall may be. It just seems a little bit weird. And I mean, I've been gaming for 30 years since before the NES came out, and I know that, you know, that whole time we always have seen the different levels of difficulty and modes available in games standard. Never have we had to pay for them until the last couple of years in this current generation with the weirdness that is DLC. But what's interesting is, I will say, Nintendo, per an article on IGN that was posted, I think, yesterday, apparently Nintendo updated what's going on here, and they did confirm that hard mode and fusion mode aren't necessarily the same thing, so that maybe the situation isn't exactly as people thought. Here's a quick excerpt from that IGN article about what Nintendo told IGN. Nintendo explained, while fusion mode does require access to the Metroid Amiibo, it is not the same as hard mode. Instead, fusion mode is an additional level of difficulty on top of hard mode, and it is recommended that players give hard mode a try first before taking on the challenge. So I do think it's interesting to get that kind of clarification from Nintendo, and I'm glad that IGN reported on this. To me, it doesn't ultimately solve the problem, and I can't imagine it's going to make any fans or any people who are upset about this feel any better, because really, we're just splitting hairs on the difference of definitions of words. I mean, when people say hard mode, they mean any new level of difficulty, not just what Nintendo is trying to say is, oh, you wanted hard mode to be free? Well, the hard mode is free, but the extra hard mode is the thing that's behind the paywall. And it's like, well, okay, Nintendo, slow your roll back the hell up, because that's not exactly what people were upset about, and I think you knew that. But I will say, it's still, I mean, I guess it softens the blow a little bit. Again, speaking as someone who doesn't care about harder modes, like, I just want to go through every game on the base mode, and that's just it. But I do think it's like, okay, well, there are multiple level of difficulties to pick from initially, out of the box, for free, no additional money required. And that is nice. You don't need an Amiibo to select from, like, the base level of selections of difficulty. But still, this fusion mode, which I believe gives you the fusion suit for Metroid Fusion, which is super awesome, is locked behind, it's the Metroid Amiibo, of course, confirmed here. So the Metroid Amiibo does have the Fusion Extra Hard mode locked behind that Amiibo purchase paywall. So at the end of the day, all this really makes me think is there's no real conclusion we can come to on how the Metroid Samus Return thing really feels. Some people might feel totally okay with this, like myself. Some people might feel like this explanation makes it easier to swallow. Some people might not feel satisfied at all and feel like this explanation doesn't change anything, and they're still upset that anything like this is locked behind an Amiibo paywall. So there's probably no real conclusion we can come to with this. This is just going to be how Metroid plays out, and we'll all just have to enjoy the game however we can once it launches in September. But it also makes me start thinking about the Amiibo situation as a whole, and I find it kind of frustrating that it's been something that I think a lot of people, between both Nintendo, the company making these products, and also the consumers, the company buying them and playing the games, that no one's really been able to come to like a consensus or an agreement, like a standard between everybody to just understand and accept how these things are supposed to be. And a lot of people have brought this up before, and I'm going to bring it up again. Some people want Amiibos to be worth their $13 purchase and to impact the games in a meaningful way, and to have really cool benefits and features locked behind the characters so that when you actually tap it onto your system or your whatever, you get really cool stuff that makes it worth it to use every time you play your game. Other people feel like locking any kind of content behind them is too much content, and that it's a waste of money, and it's basically just paid DLC, and it's just physical stuff to get the kind of features and benefits that we should get for free, or that we should get without having to buy an Amiibo. So there's no win. It's like you either put too much or you put too little, and no one is ever happy. And so what's the real win there? What's the compromise that Nintendo needs to come to when it comes to doing these things? And honestly, the only thing I can say is, given like the stickiness of that situation, like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, I feel like what they've been doing is probably the best way it possibly could be happening. I mean, the game is going to be great even if you have no Amiibos, even if you never unlock Fusion Mode, and even if you never have any other stuff. It's like, we know it's going to be a great game. As long as the game exists and is complete and feels good and fun and fresh, and like they didn't skimp on the production of the game without the inclusion of Amiibos, then they've made a great game. If you got a couple of extra things in the Amiibo, like a hard mode, or a new suit or a skin or weapon for your characters, it's like, that's fine. I mean, it's fine considering we live in a world where we've had in-game pre-order bonuses and DLC and microtransactions and season passes for years now. And I don't like that stuff, but it's been a standard for literally multiple years. And all this is Nintendo's version of kind of the same thing. The difference is you get a benefit of a really cool figure of a character you love, and that's a nice thing to have. And I think, like, you know, the fusion suit, for example, I think that's like the quintessential perfect kind of thing to put behind an Amiibo paywall. You have a Metroid game, you buy a Metroid-themed Amiibo, you get a newer Metroid-themed suit when you tap that Amiibo to your system. Great, there you go. That's Amiibo functionality 101. For $13, you get an awesome Metroid Amiibo figure, and you get a cool suit to play in your game. Like, that's fine. Yes, the hard modes and those kinds of things start to kind of get into the gray area, and I see both arguments there, and I don't really have a way to solve that problem for you guys. All I can say is it is what it is. But, you know, at the end of the day, I don't know that there's any better way that Nintendo, or even another company trying the same thing, could do this. I mean, hell, why have so many people given, like, the Disney Infinities and the Skylanders of the past a pass and said, oh, it's fine that they're doing it and charging people upwards of hundreds of dollars to complete their set of toys for their games, when it's like, I shouldn't have to buy 40 different $10 figures to have all 40 characters. They should just be in the game. Why are we giving those a pass? Just because they're like kids games for kids? I mean, I don't mind them. I'm not angry at them, but I just find it curious that people who complain about $13 amiibos of badass characters also aren't complaining about the fact that Skylanders requires you to buy characters just to unlock those characters in the game. It's just a weird, I don't know. It's just messy, and I don't think I know where else to go with it. Other than to say, Nintendo, I think you're doing fine with these things at the end of the day. It doesn't bother me. I haven't seen any examples yet of an Amiibo functionality that feels like you're skimping in the quality and the completion of the game. And it's all stuff that's just for fun. It's just adding cool things to games that don't really impact anything. The hard mode, like I said, there's nowhere else to go with that. But everything else to me is totally fine. I think Amiibos are really just harmless. So that's that. Those are my thoughts on the Amiibo situation and on Samus Returns and what Nintendo's doing with the hard mode and the fusion mode and all of this different stuff. So I know that people are very into this topic and kind of heated on the Amiibo sort of scenario and what's going on there, what's valuable, what's not valuable enough, how to do these things right. The Metroid is doing it the wrong way. People are mad at Nintendo, and like I said in this video, Nintendo has made some mistakes with these, absolutely, I agree. But it is what it is. Like I said, to me, Amiibo are harmless, they're just for fun. So share what perspective you have out there. What do you think? Does this make you mad? Do Nintendo's words of clarification help you with the situation, or just keep you as frustrated as you already were? And are you looking forward to Samus Returns and or picking up any of these Amiibos? So, discuss that stuff below. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in. Thanks for putting up with my crazy, raspy Metallica voice, post-Metallica screaming and yelling and singing voice. Man, what a good time that was. And that's it. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I will catch you guys next time on another video.